What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. This is our prediction show / reaction show / what the heck is going on with Loudoun show. I am Mike Sparks. Joining me is Justin Ashcraft. Justin, we did not end up doing a show midweek to recap the Open Cup victory, so we'll get into that. Just so much going on. I also know that personally this week is insane for you. How are things, my friend?
I'm good. All in all, I'm great. It's just a crazy week, but I'm doing well. Excited to just to keep everybody updated on my training. I'm excited to run 10 miles tomorrow, I think.
Nice.
And then I'll be out in Pittsburgh in 2 weeks to actually run the half marathon. So exciting stuff.
Do you feel like you're ready?
There's always that fear of I don't know, but I think the goal of anything like that, half marathon, full marathon, is just keep moving. As long as you keep moving, for the most part, you'll be okay. Yes, there's always a chance that you get injured or whatever, but at the end of the day, if you're just trying to finish, just keep moving.
Yep. Speaking of just keeping moving, we're going to have to just sort of keep moving because there's so much stuff that we need to talk about here. Let's start with the Open Cup and just some reactions based on what we saw. And to kick that off, we will start with Hey Sir.
And now, Hey Sir, 1 minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
Here's the deal. I think our team is trying to find the way to play the most boring games of soccer. And I think they're trying to make us not want to watch them. Okay, a win's a win. That was boring. I don't think Randolph is doing anything to help himself to keep playing. I don't think any of the players are doing anything to help themselves stay on this team and stay on the field. Good night. They were just lazy and it was boring. And how did we only win 1-0? And how does a win feel like a loss? I think that's how I'm feeling right now. And I think the only thing that would make this more exciting is to listen to a weird new song that my 5-year-old just taught me called Chicken Banana. So Mike, take it away.
Chicken banana, chicken banana, chicken banana, 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 chicken banana, chicken banana, chicken banana, banana, banana.
This has been Hey Sir, 1 minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
I'm now going to have that stuck in my head for, the rest of the day. So thank you to your lovely wife for that. I felt like I was completely at her mercy. I don't know if you've heard the story. So in Hollywood, there is this trick where directors will typically want to get different shots of actors in different angles and things. And so I think it was Gary Oldman is famous for, if there's a shot that he doesn't like, he just won't comply with it. And so say somebody was tossing him something and he had to catch it. If he didn't like the shot, he would just drop it every time it came to him until they set up the shot, and then he would catch it in one take, and that was it. That's what I felt like Laura Ellen did to me there, where she didn't just finish it. It was take it, Mike. So I had to play the Chicken Banana song. It's totally at her mercy. But how does a win feel like a loss, Justin?
Yeah, I don't know. I was pretty frustrated with the game on when, all right, fine, we got the win. We're moving on. Cool stuff. We'll talk about it. But it just, the second half, especially of the game, felt fairly lazy. And it just didn't feel like we were trying to put our foot on the game. And I think more than just some of the late passes and different things like that, I was probably a little bit more frustrated with the fact that, 65 minutes in the game, we put Atu Yazi Mertz on the field, take Borgi Garcia, forget who else we took off the field at the moment. But we took them off the field, and it's okay, we're going to put our stamp on this game. And it just felt like it got worse from that point, that Columbus had more chances after that than they had before that. And that's just frustrating because it's when you make a sub we shouldn't have even put them in the game. and we'll talk about Junior's injury. We should have put them in the game if they weren't going to put the stamp on the game and kind of be like, all right, let's finish this game off. And the reality is our two best chances came after that, and we couldn't convert on either one of them. So I don't know what to do with it. It's feeling hard to be positive about it. Even though it
really
was a win.
Yeah, I mean it's really tough because we're sort of seeing this parity where we kind of started the season slow, and I think there was a lot of questions around, we're seeing little moments and little glimpses of things that could potentially be good. We come home, we have two pretty strong showings at home. It feels like, okay, this team is finding its footing, everything's looking good. We then go away and have a complete stinker. And then we have this Open Cup game where, again, it's away. We get the win. But, if you're looking at the eye test, which you always talk to the coaches, and that's one of the big things is like, yeah, you can look at stats, but, your eyes sometimes tell a very different story, and you need to kind of trust your gut. That's what this kind of felt like. It was just like, okay, we did it. And sometimes that's the game you just have to play. You just got to get the 3 points and you just have to move on. But definitely some worrying signs that over 6 games so far, we've really only had 2 good showings, one like really good showing. And it's just, like you said, what do we do with that as fans? So, yeah.
I will say, you're talking about the difference between eye test and stat test. The stats are not looking good on Augie so far, and I'm a little bit, and especially with kind of 2 clear-cut missed chances against Columbus. I'm probably even more frustrated than I was going into that game with him and the way that he's playing. And so kind of just some quick stats to kind of throw in. Six games, and USL stats are hard to pull, so these might not be completely correct, but they're as close as I could get. Augie has 3 shots this entire season. 3 shots. To put that in perspective, Suber and Beto also have 3 shots. So 2 defensive players also have just as many shots. As the starting striker has played all but 10 minutes of the season so far. Got a goal, in the first game of the season on probably one of the weirdest plays we're going to see all season long, and how you get a goal. So that was one. He only has 110 touches. And that to me is a little bit worrying, because if you're not getting the ball, go find it. Go find it. Go back into the midfield and figure out where the game is and find it from there. To put that in perspective, Aiden O'Toole has 91 in about a quarter of the minutes that Augie has played. He has 10 touches in the opposition box, which, again, you're a striker, man. You got to find the ball in the box. DG also has 10. So, again, one of our midfielders is getting just as many touches in the box as you are. He only has 64 passes on the season. So, again, he's not, 110 touches, 64 of those were passes. O'Toole has 61, and again, a quarter of the minutes. And then he's only won about a third of his duels, and he's committed 3 times as many fouls as what he's won. So he's not earning fouls. He's not getting on the ball. He's not finding the ball in the box. And at some point, I understand that when you look at some of the goals that we've played, some of the goals that we've had on the season, some of that has been he's created it by creating space and pulling players off of him. But you can't make a living as a striker just creating space for other players. That's not what you're on the field to. You're on the field to score goals. And eventually, and part of you scoring goals is creating space for other players and all of that. But again, it's hard when over the last 3 seasons, he's had about a half a goal a game. So he's scored about every game. And this season, he's at a goal every 5 games. I don't know. I'm a little you go through too, a team that you're like, Augie should be able to dominate this team. It really wasn't any better.
Yeah.
It's concerning.
It makes me wonder. I agree with you, regardless of the reason. It's a problem. But it does make me wonder how much of this is Augie and how much of this is Bob's system and Bob's system not jiving with Augie. The limited number of touches is what really has me concerned, because I'd have to imagine that in a Bob Lilly system, he wants the striker to be getting more touches than that. I'm not saying that, like, super integral to everything that we do, but why is it that, like, aside from really Dikwa, it feels like this is the team that strikers come to die? Like, we can't figure out how to make should we just abandon strikers and just like play with 5 midfielders and let those guys attack? That kind of feels like what we're doing with DG a little bit, but it's just, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we got some news that Jockeson is back to some light training, so that could potentially impact things. And I know there's a lot of sentiment around the club and the fan base that just wait till Jockeson shows up. That's going to free up things for Augie. Maybe that'll be the case. Maybe it won't be the case. I don't know. But I think that for such a high profile signing and all of the excitement and buzz that the team was pushing about Augie, it is definitely disappointing that 6 games in, 5 in the league, 1 in the Open Cup, he literally has a goal that was kind of created from nothing. It wasn't really like a team goal, and just hasn't been as much of an impact as we would like. So, yeah.
And I think part of it, to your thought about it being, is it Augie? Is it the system? Is it Augie in this system? Part of me feels like, especially against Columbus, you're already up 1-0. It's a team that's clearly, I think, talent-wise, we were the better team on the field. I don't think we were playing like it, but I think talent-wise, we were the better team on the field. For me, it's like, all right, you're 65 minutes into this game. You're up 1-0. You need to put a stamp on the game. Go find it. Like, I don't, if you end up winning that game 3-0, 4-0, yeah, sure. Bob's going to get on you after the game and say you didn't play it the way that I want to play it and all that kind of stuff. But as a player, again, you look at it and go, all right, we were 65 minutes into the game. We scored 3 goals after I went and found the game. Yes, I understand your frustration with me, but, like, again, results is what matters. And I feel like there's just not that, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but for me, it feels like as a striker, if the game hasn't come to you, you need to go find it. And even if that's 15 minutes of dropping back into the midfield some, giving other players, giving the defense things to think about. Like, oh no, Augie's now dropping back into the midfield. What are we going to do with that? Like, all of a sudden now you've given them something to think about. And now you go back to sitting on the shoulder of the center back and try to get in behind. But I think it's, I would just like him to see. I would just like to see him go find the game a little bit more than he has been.
Yeah, as we said, we did end up getting the 1-0 win. That sort of correlates to Mondo, as we said on the show this weekend. Mondo's on a mission. He sent a video from where he is on his mission. So let's get Mondo's moment for right now.
It's time for Mondo's moment, the top moment of the game from the Mondalorian.
Our first Open Cup Mondo moment comes from a corner kick where DG doesn't even have to jump, meets a corner kick with his head, and just outsmarts the keeper for the first early goal that we held on to for the win.
This has been Mondo's moment. Go Hounds.
Nice little shot from Mondo on the West Coast. The goal, I mean, I don't even really feel like there's a ton we can say about the goal. I get why that's why it was his moment, but really, short of the keeper having not strong hands, like, this game could have been 0-0. Like, it really was almost more a keeper error than it was Danny burying a cross. But yeah, I don't know.
I was 75% sure it came off of Broughton too, but I guess it did. I don't know.
Yeah.
As I watched it, I was like, "Oh, look, Broughton scored," and then it was like, "Oh wait, they're credited it to GG." Okay, I guess I didn't see it right.
Yeah. The one thing that you mentioned, especially with the subs, I said how we did a little bit of digging, we found out, and then, of course, after we asked about it, the team decided to include it in the preview for the game today against Loudoun. But Jockeson and now All are both back in training. But the other big caveat, as you mentioned, is that Etu got hurt, and it sounds like it's not great. So I don't know what the trickle down, how that plays out. Who do we have to replace Etu at this point? How long is he going to be out? It really doesn't sound good. It sounds like Liz and Ariana were there and were able to talk to him after the game, and he was somewhat concerned. So not a good look there. Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, I thought in the Columbus game, Broughton was one of the players that I thought did a decent game actually. And I can't remember if he played right back or left back, but he wasn't playing centrally. And I thought he played fairly well. I thought he played the position similar to the way Biazzi kind of plays outside back. And how that works when you have one of them on each side of the field, I don't know. But and when the two got subbed into the game, that wasn't the play he got for. Like he got subbed in as a midfielder, kind of as an attacking midfielder, not an outside back. So I wonder if that's the same, kind of system or same maybe defensive lineup that Bob rolls with for the Loudoun game.
Yeah. Real quick before we move into Loudoun, just two other bits. So because we did get this win in the Open Cup, we have since learned, based on the draw, that we will be facing NYCFC of the MLS at home on Wednesday, May 7th at 7 p.m. We have never faced NYCFC before. They are currently 10th in the East in the MLS, and most recently they beat the Union 1-0, your other team. Do you have any kind of thoughts on NYCFC and, potentially how they might match up against the Hounds in this next round?
Yeah, I talked with the NYCFC Forever podcast a couple of weeks ago in the lead up to that game. Their feeling was NYCFC is not in a great position. They haven't kind of put everything together yet this season. They haven't been able to kind of gel as a team yet. They're on a new coach, a Dutch coach, where they're trying to figure out that system and all that kind of stuff. They didn't really bring anybody in. I think the coaches, they kind of went with, hey, new coach has got to figure out the players that he has currently. And so they didn't really bring anybody in. And so the feeling was that they're preparing for sort of a down season and all of that. This is not the NYCFC of a couple years ago. And so I do think the Hounds have a chance. If they play the game against Columbus, they don't have a chance. But if they play well at home, thankfully not on a baseball field at Yankee Stadium or Shea Stadium. But if the Hounds play well, I think they have a chance. The Union have their own struggles, and that was part of the reason they went up to New York and lost. But I think this could be a pretty good matchup, actually.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see how serious both teams take it in this round of 32. I was looking at, I know that obviously fan excitement is at another high after, the last MLS team that we played at home was against Columbus in the Open Cup 2 years ago. It was, momentous, packed house, people losing their minds. One of the best memories of Highmark Stadium that I've personally ever had. I think a lot of people are expecting this to rival that potentially. I was thinking to myself, I was like, this still feels a little early in the season. Like, are people really going to show up for this game? What did I say? The game is Wednesday, May 7th. When I looked, the Columbus game in the round of 16 was like May 20th. So it wasn't that much later in the season. So yeah, I think that this is a great opportunity for us to show up and do something, especially at home. It will be interesting to see how seriously we take it and how seriously NYCFC take it. I know that when Columbus came, a lot of their fans were saying like, this is our B team. It doesn't really matter. But that's part of the cup. Like, you got to show up. You got to try to win under the circumstances that are there. And you put out the team that you think can do that. And that's kind of what we did in Columbus. And so, I'm sure that, Jeff is going to have the marketing team in full effect and have the stadium packed and everybody hyped. And it's going to be a really good time. I believe tickets go on sale next week for those that are interested in going. But yeah, great opportunity. The one thing as soon as I heard that, I went, oh crap. Is that going to be our first game on the new turf? Thankfully not. We basically have the game today against Loudoun. We then travel away to Detroit for the Jägermeister Cup, and then we will be back to play North Carolina the following Saturday before playing NYCFC the next Wednesday. So we will have a game on the new turf to get ready. But we did get some confirmation. Jesse apparently was walking past the stadium and got a pic of the new turf. I can't tell if this is the new turf going in or them removing the existing turf. Regardless, turf is moving. So thanks to Jesse for the picture. We knew it was happening, but it's good to get, sort of the confirmation and sort of see the progress. Mm-hmm. So do you have any thoughts, Justin, just in terms of how seriously you think either of these teams might take this or what you can expect from that game?
I would hope. Listening to the NYCFC pod, I don't know how seriously they can take it. A lot of their players are young, and so if they put kind of their B team out there, I think it'll feel very much like USL game. Like, I think it'll feel like, oh, this is a much better team playing. I would hope Bob takes it seriously and puts a good lineup out there. I don't know how you manage that where we are in the league and kind of what the results have been so far. But maybe you prioritize that over the Jägermeister Cup, and you put your better, your B team out there for the Jägermeister Cup and try to get some guys some rest so they can play games in 5 days and do all of that, and we could put a good lineup against NYCFC. But yeah, I feel this is a great matchup, and regardless of who it is coming in, I think I'm glad that it's NYCFC. But also, even with the way the draw worked, I'm glad it's not Indy 11, because it was either them or Indy 11 coming in, and so I'm glad it's NYCFC. So, good stuff. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we'll take it. Speaking of, let's look towards the league. Let's look towards the game that's actually happening today. Obviously, the Hounds are traveling to Loudoun. Lots of news this week about Loudoun. The New York Times, basically, it's The Athletic. The Athletic is owned by the New York Times. They dropped a scathing article by Pablo Maurer about Loudoun. A couple of quotes here that I'm going to read for you in case that you missed this. But essentially, one of the quotes: amid rumors of an ownership change, players and administrators alike are scrambling for their jobs and existing in conditions that feel entirely unprofessional. Players, many of whom make the league minimum, often wash their own kits and play in front of a handful of fans on a rapidly deteriorating playing surface. Coaches, several of them volunteers, guide those players without access to basic biometrics, data, or video footage. We have one common enemy, said a source within Loudoun United's locker room, who requested anonymity to protect the professional relationships: ownership. In my words, it's F the owners. All we have is us at this point, and who knows how long we have this together. It sounds like it's kind of a hot mess. It's rumored that Steve Birnbaum, who's the former DC United captain, he's the current GM of DC Power, which is the USL Super League team, is their new GM, and that their current coach, Ryan Martin, is going to be dismissed. Ryan Martin has been there for 7 years. He's the second longest tenured coach in the USL behind Bob Lilley. So he's been around. What's interesting, and we'll get to this in a minute, despite all of this, Loudoun is still top of the East. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. So why, under all of these conditions, why would you consider getting rid of your coach? We'll circle back to that. Players at Loudoun actually considered boycotting the club's second match of the season according to multiple sources, but they eventually relented, understandably concerned with the long-term professional consequences. Many of the players on Loudoun's roster make the league minimum of $32,000 a year, with some of that total sometimes being accounted for through housing costs, health insurance, or other expenses. They just announced that the team is going to be merging with Virginia Revolution Soccer, which is a youth program within the DC area, and they will have a third of the stake in the team, really sort of marketing itself now as a pipeline to get people up to the Loudoun team. The whole thing just sounds like Loudoun is like a house of cards ready to fall over. You kind of feel for the players. You know, we've been advocates for a long time for sort of better pay, better situations for the players. It just sounds like everything is falling apart. I mean, your thoughts on the article and sort of what came out this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to think about. You know, it feels like maybe DC United made a mistake by not taking this team to, you know, MLS Next Pro, and wanting to release the team, but maybe there was, you know, all this kind of stuff. You can look back and go, well, that's the way it should have been. But it doesn't really matter at this point because it's the way that they chose. And yeah, it just seems like it's been in a couple seasons of mismanagement and bad decisions and all that kind of stuff that gets to the point where they have no fans that are coming to the games, which means they don't have an income stream, which means they can't play players, which means they shouldn't be playing in a lot of ways. But somehow this team is doing well this season. And so, yeah, it's like, what do you do? And how do you kind of turn the ship and get it headed in the right direction financially? I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's tough. I mean, you know, it feels like a lifetime ago, but the Hounds were at one point in a similar situation, sort of facing bankruptcy and, you know, new ownership, and they've kind of clawed their way out of that to sort of become, you know, perennial playoff. I won't say the phrase powerhouse, but just they're often thought of as one of those top teams in the East and sort of stability and operations and just kind of always being there. And so, you know, I said on the last episode that I would love to see a team like Loudoun get there. But I also think that part of that is you need people who care about this team, and you need fans who care about this team, who are going to show up and support the team. And it just feels like they got stuck in this weird limbo of being a B team without really being a B team. And so, like, what does that mean? How do you navigate out of that with, you know, the USL introducing a tier 1 league? Are they going to want to have a team in the DC-ish area to compete with DC? But is that even going to be realistic when you actually look at the fan base? There's so many questions. And I do really feel for the players because they're kind of stuck. Like, you're there, you have a contract, you have to play, but it just feels like a really bad situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, part of what I think through, it was interesting on the NYCFC pod, when I interviewed them, we just got talking about soccer in the area, and I was asking about the fact that they have, you know, Gotham in the NWSL, they have, you know, the Red Bulls in NYCFC. Now they have the Brooklyn team in the Super League and supposedly coming to USL Championship next year. And I was just saying, how exciting is that in a city in the US we have 5, 6, 7 soccer teams who are, you know, professionally viable. Their comment about Brooklyn was that no one goes because it's inconvenient to get to. It's not in a place where it's, you know, it's not in a place where there's a lot of people. It's, you know, and so both of them are saying, like, we have gone. We just haven't even looked into going to this game. And I wonder if that's the same for, you know, I wonder if that's the same for Loudoun. Like, is it just not in a convenient place where a lot of fans or the DC metro area can actually, like, get to? You know, public transportation would play a lot, and, you know, and so there's all these different things that I wonder, like, are they able to even get to the game? Is it easy? You know, it kind of reminds me of Pittsburgh. Like, if Pittsburgh played down the street, you know, at Couples Field, like nobody would go because there's parking, there's no, and like we talk about the parking at Highmark all the time, but like just imagine if we played at Couples Field and there's no parking, you're having to walk to the game, like no one would go and the franchise wouldn't be viable. So I wonder if that's similar to what's happening at Loudoun, is they just don't have a stadium right area and with the right public transportation options and with the right accessibility to make it viable.
Yeah. It is a real shame. And it does seem like to a certain extent that it has somewhat galvanized the team in a sort of us versus them mentality. I mentioned they've won 5 of their 6 league games. Their only loss came to Louisville. They actually lost them twice. They lost once in the league and they just lost to them in the Open Cup this past week. Statistically, if you were to compare us to Loudoun. I know that Josh, yesterday we dropped the Dogs of War video, and there's this sentiment of, if you look at the history, I think we've played each other 15 times. The Hounds have won 13, Loudoun have won once. So it's not even like it's that close. But if you look at statistically how things have played out across the league so far this season, they are top of the league with goals with 11. They have the same number of clean sheets as we do, which is 2. They've let in the same number of goals as we have, which is 5, despite playing 1 more game and facing 5 more shots than we have. So defensively, we're kind of the same. If not, they're doing a little bit better. They have the 4th most passes in the league, which is 500 more than we do. They have almost twice as many shots on target as we do. They've won over 20 more fouls than we have while conceding 8 less. Their striker, Abakura, is leading the league in goals with 5, and their keeper, Farreau, is tied for 2nd in the league with 15 saves. So I was trying to look for some stat that says, like, the Hounds are better than them this season, and I couldn't find one. So despite everything, despite these guys washing their own kits and, like, playing on a crappy surface, there was a comment from one of the unnamed players that was saying they're legit concerned about the field coming up, and potentially the refs looking at the field and saying that it's unplayable, like they can't play on it. So that will be one thing to watch today as we're there on the field. It's just, I want to sit here and provide a prediction and say, yeah, the Hounds are going to like steamroll them. But after everything that we've seen, I have a hard time saying that. I mean, how are you feeling about this game?
Not great. It was interesting, like listening to you guys talk about the Charleston game, Sunday night too. And I had very similar feelings as you guys, but I think one of the things in that discussion that had me interested was you guys talked about like, did Charleston beat us or did we lose? And I personally think Charleston beat us. I think we did some things that hurt us in the game. But I think Charleston was just a by far better team, and they were a good team last year, and they seemingly got better. They got some more players, and they got better, where I am starting to think I don't think we did. And so I look at Loudoun kind of the same way. I mean, they had a decent team last year. A lot of them were young players. This is year 2, year 3, year 4 for some of these guys. And they have an experienced coach in Ryan Martin. And I think they got better than what they were last year. And so I'm afraid that they're just going to beat us on their home. It's an away game. And it's not a terrible thing in the course of a soccer season to lose on the road. That's not uncommon, even for good teams. But I think this is one of those games that I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going into it positively and thinking like, we're going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you think about how the Hounds might ultimately line up for this one, I'm assuming there's not going to be Etu. So you kind of lose that attack down your left-hand side. I'm going to guess that Jockeson and all aren't going to be ready to go either. So you're basically playing with a similar team minus Etu as to what we've seen over the past few weeks. I agree with everything that you said about did we get better. at this moment, I think you're right. There is that outstanding question of I don't know if we did get better. I think once Jockeson comes back, we might see a different setup and we might be in a better position, but we have to wait and see. That's just one of the risks that you take, as players get injured and whatnot. So I don't really feel good about this game. I think that for whatever reason, we do seem to have a different kind of swagger at home, which is great. If you win your games at home and you can at least draw on the road, that's your recipe for success. But it just feels like there's something about this Loudoun team, and there's something about this rut that we're in that we need to get it out of our system. So I don't feel great about this one, in all honesty. Give me a score prediction here. How do you think this plays out?
I think we lose 2-1. And if we get a point, it's going to be like a 1-1 game. Like, it's going to be a close game. I will say, the other thing I forgot to say earlier about Aaron Barnes was pretty impressive to me the other night as well. And so I'd be excited to see him on the field again in this game. I thought he played with a lot of energy and is quick. And so I'd be excited to see him in the lineup in this game.
Yeah, I think my score prediction would be same as yours. I think it's going to be a 2-1 loss. Fun fact, apparently the win in Columbus was the Hounds' 299th win of all time. So this has the potential to be the Hounds' 300th win of all time if they could make it happen. I hope they make it happen. But it just feels like there's some things they got to get out of their system. They need to galvanize together in a way that it seems that Loudoun already has. So yeah, it'll be interesting. That's what we think. Obviously, let us know what you think. The game is actually at 4:30 p.m. at Sagra Field. So if you are waiting for a 7 o'clock kickoff, you will have missed the whole thing. It'll be available on KDKA Plus and ESPN Plus. I know that there is a contingent from the Steel Army that is traveling to the game. I believe there's also a watch party happening at the pitch. I could be wrong. But check out the Steel Army for that. They have all that info. Justin, I guess any sort of final thoughts on this one before we get out of here?
No, it's like it's hard because right now I feel negative about this team, but I'm still as big of a fan as I will be, and so it's like I'm as much as I'm like I don't think they're gonna win. I'm still gonna be cheering them on, and I'm still gonna be mad when they lose. So, it's all good. But that's why we love sport, and that's why we love soccer, and that's why I love the Hounds. So, hopefully they'll turn around this season, this weekend, and we'll be surprised at the result. And Sunday show will be really fun.
Agreed. Thanks, everybody. We will be back with more Hounds and Riveters content for you very, very